What if the move that completely transforms this Cowboys defense isn't even on the roster yet? What if it's literally one phone call away and Jerry Jones is sitting on the decision right now? Cowboys Nation, this is exactly where we're at. And before we dive into everything you need to know, hit that subscribe button, because here at Blue and Silver Nation, we bring you Cowboys updates the second they drop. And trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next, because the names we're about to break down could change everything about how this defense looks by week 1. All right, let's get into it, because the Cowboys front office has already made it crystal clear they're not messing around this offseason. They came out swinging in free agency, and the moves are adding up fast. But here's what nobody is talking about. The linebacker room still has a massive hole that needs to be filled. And there are 3 names floating around right now that could be the final piece to this defensive puzzle. We're talking Patrick Queen, we're talking Nick Herbig, and we're talking Jordan Brooks. And each one of these guys solves a completely different problem for Dallas. So let me break down exactly why this matters and who Jerry should be calling first. Now look at what Dallas has already done, because the foundation is being laid right in front of our eyes. Rashawn Gary is officially in the building, that edge rusher from Green Bay, who put up 33 pressures last season, which honestly would have led the entire Cowboys team last year. Think about that for a second. One guy coming in who immediately becomes your best pressure producer, that's significant. And then you've got Jalen Thompson locked in at safety, which shores up the back end. You've still got Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and now George Pickens on the franchise tag. So the offense isn't going anywhere. This is still a team that can put points on the board with the best of them. But here's where it gets real interesting. The defense was the problem last year. We all watched it. We all lived through the frustration of watching opposing quarterbacks sit back there with all day to throw and offenses march down the field like we were playing prevent defense the entire game. So the front office clearly understands the mission. Rebuild the defensive identity of this football team as fast as humanly possible. Kenny Clark is there, Quinnen Williams is there, Malik Hooker is there, the secondary is getting addressed, the defensive line is stacking up. But when you look at that linebacker depth chart, you've got Kenneth Murray Jr. and DeMarvion Overshawn listed as your top 2 guys, with Maris Lufau and Shaka Toney behind them. And while there's talent in that room, there's no denying that one more legitimate proven difference maker at linebacker could completely change the entire tone of this defense. And the crazy part is, the names available right now are not just decent options. These are guys who can walk in and immediately become the heartbeat of a defense. Let's start with Patrick Queen, because if you want the safest, most proven answer, he's the guy. This is a linebacker who has started 84 games in his NFL career, not rotational snaps, not situational packages, 84 starts, which means this man has seen every offensive look imaginable and knows how to handle his business in the middle of a defense. The production is absolutely real. We're talking 582 career tackles, 43 tackles for loss, 14.5 sacks as a linebacker, 22 passes defended, 7 forced fumbles, 7 fumble recoveries, and 4 interceptions plus 2 Pro Bowl selections and second-team All-Pro honors in 2023. That is not a good linebacker resume. That is an elite linebacker resume. And what makes Queen so intriguing for Dallas specifically is the certainty factor. You're not guessing with this guy. You're not hoping he develops. You're not praying he figures it out at the NFL level. He's already figured it out, and he's been doing it at a high level for years now. Cowboys Nation, think about what that means for a defense that desperately needs more consistency and more attitude in the middle of the field. Patrick Queen gives you a grown man who offenses actually have to game plan around. He gives you a linebacker who can run sideline to sideline, who can drop in coverage and make plays on the ball, who can blitz and actually get home, and who sets the tone with physicality every single snap. And here's a detail that makes this even more interesting. Dallas already has recent trade history with Pittsburgh after the George Pickens deal, so there's actual precedent for these two franchises picking up the phone and making things happen. Is it a guarantee? Of course not. But is there a logical connection there? Absolutely. But then you shift over to Nick Herbig, and the entire conversation changes. Because Herbig is a completely different kind of answer. He's not the proven veteran, he's the upside swing, he's the young pass rusher who has already shown flashes of being a legitimate game wrecker and might just be scratching the surface of what he can become. The numbers in his first 2 NFL seasons are eye-popping when you really dig into them. 16 career sacks in 45 games, 8.5 sacks in recent action, 10 tackles for loss, 14 quarterback hits, and 6 forced fumbles. That is chaos production right there. That is a player who might not have the long resume of a Patrick Queen, but has the kind of explosiveness and twitch that makes defensive coordinators draw up plays specifically to get him one-on-one against offensive tackles. Now here's why Herbig fits what Dallas is building in a really fascinating way. The Cowboys already added Rashawn Gary, right? So you might think edge rusher is checked off the list, but that's not how modern pass rush works anymore. You can't just have one edge rusher and pray he stays healthy for 17 games. You need waves of pressure. You need fresh legs in the fourth quarter. You need multiple guys who can win their matchups so offensive lines can never get comfortable. Herbig would come in not as the savior, but as the second punch, the rotational piece who makes the entire edge room more dangerous, the young guy whose role can expand over time as part of a deeper front that already includes Gary, Kenny Clark, Quinnen Williams, Osa Odigizua, and all the other pieces Dallas is stacking up there. Would you take that swing, Cowboys Nation? A younger player with maybe a higher ceiling but less certainty? A guy who could develop into a perennial Pro Bowler or could just be a solid rotational piece versus the proven commodity route? It's a legitimate debate, and honestly, there's no wrong answer. It just depends on what Dallas values more right now: guaranteed production or upside explosion. The one knock on Herbig in this specific situation is positional fit with the current needs. He helps the edge, which is great, but linebacker still feels like the softer spot on the depth chart right now. So if the goal is to fix the defense as completely and quickly as possible, Herbig might be the third call instead of the first. And that brings us to Jordan Brooks, and this is where the whole conversation gets absolutely spicy because Brooks might have the strongest argument of anyone on this list when you look at what he just did last season. We're talking about a first-team All-Pro selection, not second-team. First-team All-Pro meaning the best at his position in the entire league. He started all 17 games and led the NFL in tackles with 183, added 3.5 sacks, 13 tackles for loss, 3 passes defended, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery, and here's the stat that really jumps off the page. He was the only player in the entire NFL to hit 150-plus tackles, 10-plus tackles for loss, and at least 3 sacks in the same season. That is absolutely monster production. That is not pretty good linebacker play. That is one of the best individual linebacker seasons in recent memory. So if you're Dallas and you're looking at the current state of this defense, Brooks feels like the move that most dramatically changes the identity of the entire unit. Gary helps the edge, Thompson helps the secondary, Kenny Clark and Quinnen Williams help the interior, but Brooks gives you the spine. He gives you the guy who cleans everything up in the middle of the field, who closes gaps faster than anyone, who plays downhill with violence, and who makes every other defender around him play freer, because they know number whatever is going to be there to finish the play. Pair that with the front. Dallas is already building, and suddenly this isn't just a tougher defense on the outside or a stronger defense up front. This becomes a defense that's tougher in the heart, where games are often won in ugly November and December moments. The challenge with Brooks is obvious, though. Players coming off first-team All-Pro seasons are not easy to pry loose. Miami's roster still has him firmly in place, and this would take real capital and real negotiation to make happen. But if the question is simply who changes Dallas the most right now, Brooks has the strongest case of anyone we're discussing today. So let me give you my ranking of who the Cowboys should be calling first. Number 1, Jordan Brooks. Because he attacks the biggest remaining need with the biggest current resume, He gives you all pro-level impact at linebacker immediately, and that completes this defensive makeover more cleanly than anything else. Number 2. Patrick Queen. He's the more realistic proven linebacker answer, and if Dallas wants stability, experience, and guaranteed full-time production, without necessarily paying the all-pro premium that Brooks would command, Queen is an outstanding option who would immediately upgrade that room. Number 3, Nick Herbig, not because I don't like the player because I absolutely love the upside here, but because of positional urgency. If Dallas hadn't already added Rashawn Gary, I might be ranking this differently, but after that move, linebacker still feels like the spot where one more grown man addition changes everything the fastest. Queen and Brooks both solve that directly, while Herbig gives you juice, and I love juice, but Queen and Brooks give you structure. And structure is exactly what this defense still needs. And here's why Cowboys fans should be fired up about all of this instead of nervous. Look at what the front office has already done. Rashawn Gary signed, Jalen Thompson signed, George Pickens retained on the franchise tag, Kenny Clark locked in, Quinnen Williams already there, Brian Schottenheimer in place as offensive coordinator. This is not a franchise sitting around hoping vibes fix the defense. This is a franchise actively reshaping the roster around what they believe this team can be right now, this year, not 3 years from now, right now. And because the offense already has enough firepower to win games, every single defensive move carries more weight, every linebacker discussion matters more, every edge conversation is bigger, every veteran addition has real significance because Dallas does not need a miracle on offense. What they need is reliability and bite on defense. That's exactly why these 3 names are so fascinating to watch right now. They're not fantasy targets, they're real fit names, they're timeline names, they're how do we push this team over the line and actually compete for something special names. And one more smart move on this side of the ball, oh man, this defense is going to look completely different by kickoff, and suddenly all those doubters who wrote Dallas off are going to have to start paying attention again. So Cowboys Nation, here's what I need from you. If Jerry Jones gets one more real defensive phone call this week, who should be the first name out of his mouth? Are you going all in on Jordan Brooks, the all-pro hammer who just dominated the entire league at linebacker? Are you taking the proven reliable answer in Patrick Queen who gives you certainty and production immediately? Or are you swinging on the young edge burst of Nick Herbig hoping that upside turns into something special? Drop your pick in the comments right now. I want to see where this fan base stands on the debate because honestly, there's no clear wrong answer here. It just depends on what you value most. Hit that like button if you're excited about where this defense is heading. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to Blue and Silver Nation because we're going to be all over every move this team makes, and you're going to want to be here when the next piece of news drops. This defense is being rebuilt piece by piece right in front of us, and Cowboys Nation, the finish line is closer than you think. Let's ride.